Welcome to That's Anita Live, the personal development talk show dedicated to providing emotional healing through sharing to help you create a happier life. If you know someone that is not living a life they absolutely love, I need you to run go get them right now. And if it's you, pay attention, because my guest today is an entrepreneurial powerhouse. She's gone from baking to catering to event planning to public relations consulting and on and on. All with hard work, networking, and good old-fashioned grit. She's here today to help you overcome excuses, get up, and get to work. Welcome, Chandra, to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
19 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
Started your first business.
Yes.
How did that start?
Well, my dad, God rest his soul, he actually put me in the kitchen when I was 4. And the first thing I ever made was donuts.
At 4?
At 4. I had a step stool. He put me to the stove. He's like, we're going to learn to cook. And from there, I just started cooking. And then my great-grandmother, I used to go to her in the summer. So she taught me how to cook on a potbelly stove. So it had no temperature, so I had to gauge it just right. But I fell in love with cooking. I could cook anything. And I never, without a recipe. And so from there, I just kept going. And then someone asked me to bake a pie that I had made for my family. So that's where it started. It's like, hey, I'm going on a trip. Can you ship them to me? And so that's where it all started. And it blossomed from there.
How did you go from hooking up friends to putting a price on it?
A mentor of mine, he's a very he's a very great businessman.
Okay.
He was based out of Tyson's. He ran a dating service. He said, if you don't value your product, why would anybody else? Okay. So he said, put a price tag on it, and they'll still, because they value it, because he said you can't keep going out of your pocket and going broke to make them smile. So I put a price tag on it, and they paid it. And
what was that price tag?
The first price tag I put was $20, and it was for a pecan pie.
Okay.
But the thing is, I shelled the pecans myself. I bought them in bulk, and I said,
no.
So I put love into everything that I baked. So that he was like, that's the price point, and then it went from there. Yeah.
How long did you stay in business baking?
It was 10 years. 10 years. My father got sick, and I lost my passion, but I didn't lose a passion for business.
Now, understand, there was no formal schooling.
No, I took one class in high school.
19 when you started your first business.
Yes.
What removed the fear of failure for you?
My dad. He always told me, he's like, nothing beats a failure but a try.
Okay.
So no matter what, you keep trying. No, I never, there was never a time where I was like, okay, I can't try it. What's the point of, always looking at it? Because I used to be very fearful of failing, but I had to try it anyway. And the failure is where I found the success, though, because sometimes I failed a lot. I will say that I have failed many times. Comedy shows, businesses. I've had to close businesses, but I never stopped. I would close one and open another.
Yeah, because from baking we went to catering.
Yes, to catering. I actually the food side of I catered an event for a home builder. And the person who was supposed to bring the food canceled on them. So I was like, okay, I can whip up some small bites. I had done that before, so I came with the desserts and the food. And they were like, okay, good. We have 3 more open houses this week.
How much of a lead time of a warning did you have before you had to deliver?
48 hours.
Whoa.
So I had a full-time job, 3 children. Back then I had a husband and a 48-hour notice. So I didn't sleep. I just worked it out. But I love to cook. That's how my passion was.
Again, I'm going to ask this question.
Yes.
With 48 hours notice and adding small bites to the desserts that you were delivering.
Yes.
How did you put a price on it?
I actually, because of the short turnaround,
okay.
I just, I looked at the cost of what it would, for the materials, my time, and then I did my multiply by 3, then 0.20, And that's how I got to my price. It's always it's a mathematical thing for me. Like, it's always the math behind it, because you have to know that the 1 hour of your time, you have to look at exactly what you're doing in that hour. And so then you take it from there. And the 0.20 was because it was late notice.
Now, initially, when being first asked that question, can you provide small bites because our person canceled on us? A normal person would have felt this bout of fear come up and would have said no.
No.
Why do you feel as if that didn't happen for you?
Because I knew I could deliver. Back then I was kind of fearless because I knew what I could do. So it was like, whatever, I got it. 48 hours, I'm good. I made crab cakes, little egg rolls. Like, I still remember that to this day because it was so important.
And how old were you when you did that?
24.
Okay, so from 19 to 24 we did baking. 24 we pushed it over into catering. Now, how did catering turn into event planning?
Because someone was having a wedding. So everything, actually, my trajectory is always like,
Wonder Woman is in the house.
And then, it is so funny because they were having a wedding and their planner was not handling what they should have.
Okay.
So it was one of the things, like, I just stepped in because it needed to be done. And even in my career, I've always done that. Like, just you fill in the gap. It's not any slack off of you just to be a team player. So
now, event planning takes on another skill set.
Yes.
Than baking.
Yes.
Any fear?
Yes. Because with event planning, there are so many factors that come into place. Like, I just left my position as a corporate event planner to focus on my businesses, but you are dealing with so many different components. The actual probability of failure is higher because you're dealing with anybody else coming into play. So you have flowers, decor, furniture, the venue, the weather, and people. So all of these kind of put into place. So to be a great event planner, you have to plan for the unexpected, and you also have to think 3 to 5 steps ahead.
So if you had that fear, what made you step into it and say, yes, I'll handle it for you?
Because I want to prove myself wrong. There's nothing, you don't want to always say, oh, I can't do it because of this. No, you got to go full force. If you fail, you fail. Nobody died. So isn't
that a measurement?
Yes, nobody died. If something, like them saying that should be your limit. Come on now, nobody died, then hey.
Okay, now that's how you felt.
Yes.
Right? Let's roll through a couple of excuses that people generally use when they're faced with an opportunity that they haven't done before.
Ooh. Right?
They say, what would you say to a person that says, I can't start a business because I don't have a college degree?
I laugh at that. Because you got to look at it this way. I think everybody who's either people in school, elementary school, when you're selling candy to raise money, you're running a business. So you didn't have a college degree then. When you were raising money, like anytime you're doing any kind of transaction and you're planning something, you didn't have a college degree in middle school, high school, when you're doing the booster clubs and stuff like that. So why is that even on the table? You were 5 years old selling lemonade. That's running a business. So,
well, I can't start a business because I don't have anyone to support me.
You support you. If you don't believe in you, who else would? Like, This is where I really want people to understand. Like, I've had no ticket sales to an event, but I still showed up and gave the greatest event that I could. Why? Because that's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what you believe in. If you don't believe in you, then no one else will. So that's not even an excuse about support.
Okay, now let's talk about rebounding. Because as you mentioned, you've had some businesses you had to close.
Yes.
You've had some that had some failures.
Yes.
What was your biggest failure and what was your lesson learned?
My biggest failure was, I would say, closing a media company that I had. I learned from there, not everyone has good intent. So I learned to structure myself, have contracts in place, more tighter contracts, and also not beat myself up. It happens. Move on.
So what was the failure that happened?
I ended up losing photos and videos of a very important interview. And I almost lost one of my clients because of that, because of relying on someone else's their role instead of taking care of it and being there. I just said, oh, that person had it, and not trusting my gut. That was my biggest failure of that, not trusting what that voice in the back of my head was saying.
So did the videographer and photographer just not show up?
Yes. Yes. And this person had paid, and I had to in turn return funds that I didn't even receive. So I actually had to take a loss on that. I also had to fix my reputation as well, because some other inappropriate things happened. So
why did you close versus?
Because I closed it because I had to close that chapter. And it's okay to do that, because the negative connotations that was attached to that, I could not bring that along in my legacy, because that person had basically took over that branding, and you can't separate the two. You know, you can't issue a statement and saying this is not me. People have already got that taste in their mouth. So I had to close it, and it was hard, but what was born out of that was something that I should have done from the get-go, instead of being not listening to myself.
Count them off for me, because right now, how many businesses do you have open and operational right now?
So I have Chandra Gore Consulting. That's a boutique business development and PR firm. I have SCM Productions, which is a photography, videography, and we put on comedic events. I have the Greater Northern Virginia Comedy and Film Festival, which it's in our inaugural year. So it's happening in August. And then I have the Urban Flight Foundation, which is a community organization where we give out information so that so that people who are in the gray area, they don't qualify for help, but they don't make enough so I help them find resources. And that's about it now.
Are there any synergies between those businesses?
Yes, there is.
Because how do you operate 4 businesses that have 4 different separate skill sets?
Well, they all intertwine because they're all passions of mine. So with my consulting and the PR, I actually push the other businesses, and I also help comedians understand the business side of comedy and helping them brand themselves, and also give them shows that they can be on, and also the festival that they can actually participate in. So it all kind of works
if you say
in
so,
tandem.
If you say so.
I mean, I love what I absolutely love it, because it keeps me busy.
Now, you mentioned at the very beginning that you just ended your full-time job.
Yes, I did.
To run your businesses full-time.
Yes.
What pushed you into that decision?
Oh, child. I burnt out as a corporate employee. I actually burnt out, but also it was not a great fit anymore, because it got to the point where it was toxic. So for my mental health, which is a big thing that I tell everyone, know your limits and take care of you first. And I didn't do that. So I had to make that decision and say, you know what, I got to step away from this, because this is not healthy for me. And I have all this other stuff that could fail if I let this burn me out. So the decision was made, and it was hard, but it had to be made. And I'm flourishing in my businesses, which is a welcome change. I'm just surprised, because I'm never out in front talking about it. I'm always behind talking about the things that I do.
We'll be right down to break down these businesses and see if any of their services can help you. And we are back with Miss Chandra Gore, discussing her multitude of business experience and the 4 businesses she currently runs.
Yes.
But the big surprise is that you run all of these businesses with a mental illness.
Yes, I do. Which is so funny, because I think the stigma that depression is something that you're sad all the time, and it's not that at all. There are times where I'm I suffer from bipolar manic depression, and anxiety and PTSD. So let me give you the backstory. A long time ago, picture it. No, I got married at 18 to my high school sweetheart. And it wasn't a good situation, but because I never want to walk away and give up, I stayed in it. It became an abusive situation, which triggered things within myself that I didn't know that I was dealing with anxiety, and then The last trigger before I filed for divorce was a very abusive situation. So from there, I was depressed, and it took me going into a hospital for them to diagnose and help me work through it. Mind you, I have three children from my marriage. So being a young mother, working and doing all of this other stuff, I had the underlying issue of depression and anxiety and the panic episodes. I would actually, I lived in West Virginia, so I would drive to Virginia every day for work. I had a panic attack on the side of the mountain, going around the mountain. So that right there was a trigger, like, okay, no, I need to get some help, because I can't drive off this mountain. Like, it came to that point. So from there, I began to work on getting myself together. There's been some very, very lows, there's some highs, but I've worked through a lot of the things that I've dealt with, because you can't be Superwoman all the time.
Now hear this. At 19, okay, she was married, she had kids, she was managing a mental illness, and she still opened her own baking business.
Yes.
Miss me with the excuses, people.
There's none.
Miss me with the excuses. Get up and get
the help. It's one thing I will say, personally speaking, as a Black woman, we're always looked at as superheroes. Yes. We're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to be weak. We're not allowed to show those. But we have to own our human side. We can't be stoic all the time and super save everybody, because sometimes we need the saving too. So accepting that and owning that, like my father said to me, you need to get the help that you need, because I can't do it. Right. And I used to go to my daddy for everything. Like, my daddy was, he was go, Daddy, just tell me what to do. He's like, I can't help you with this. You have to go sit on that chair and talk to somebody. Okay. And so he helped me, he pushed me. He said, because you got to cry. You got to own those feelings. You got to go through it. So doing that, it actually helped me.
Release.
Yes.
Feel and release.
You have to. Because you can't walk around pent up. It's not good for your children. It's not good for you. It's not good for people around you. Because sometimes you say, oh, I want to not be around toxic energy, and someday you are the toxic energy. So let's be real honest with ourselves and fix those things that that need to be fixed. Own it.
On days when you feel overwhelmed, what do you do for self-care?
I actually will take a moment. I love to read. I like to write. So I'll either take a moment to myself to regroup, and, because sometimes you have to step away and regroup and have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever, and sit down and just decompress. That's what I usually do for myself. And it's something that a lot of people don't want to do because they have children and all this, but you have to take that time.
What do you do with the kids running around making noise?
What's so funny is my children actually can tell, like, mommy, hey, because they're older now. So my daughter is so intuitive. She's like, hey, mommy, I see that you kind of.
Is it coffee time?
Yeah, she's like, you want to go have a cup of tea, mom? Or, hey, I think you need to go lay down for a little bit. Sometimes I think she is my mother sometimes, but it helps that she can tell, like, because sometimes I'll get really quiet, or I won't cook, or I won't do certain things. And she's like, okay, mom, you need to go ahead. Go ahead, we got it, or we'll take care of it, or I'll come home and they've cooked. Because, I'll call before I get home, and they're like, they'll go ahead and take care of things, and I don't put upon them, but they, as
a family, they feel their responsibility to hold the bond and bind the family together. Because
when I was at my lowest, we were all we had. Because I don't have a big family, so my children I treated them, they're children, but they have that sixth sense where, like, okay, mommy is not feeling good, and they'll come and they'll rub my head. I'm like, you know what? Okay, good. I just go with it, because children, they don't have that that barrier yet.
Oh, isn't that nice? You don't have any kids like me, because I'd have been like, oh, mom's sick, party time.
No,
she can't get up off the sofa.
No, they actually, when I'm really in a depressive mode, they will actually come and check on me and say, you know what, mom, we'll just cut the light off and let you have your moment, and they'll come and lay beside me.
Okay, so that's your low. Now tell me, how do you
them highs.
handle self-care in the highs?
I'll go get get a facial, get my nails done, stuff like that. But I also am my activities are so, like, I'll get so much done. It's like it's the dynamic it's crazy. But I manage it because it actually works with having multiple things to do. So I accomplish a lot in those highs.
Yes, you do.
So
Yeah. Yes, you do.
I actually accomplished a lot. A lot of my clients have gotten some really good returns out of my highs. So
Give me some examples.
I had a client actually go on a national podcast, which was very hard to get, and then they were on Vice, HBO Vice, and then they're actually doing great because of my branding and pushing. And actually had George Washington University tell me that my branding was amazing, and I was like, oh, it was like one of those things, like, oh really? And I was like, yeah, this was spot on the mark, and I didn't realize it until they're like, yeah, it's perfect, and it went into their and fit right into what they were doing. And then I've had other clients who have totally revamped their businesses, and now they're thriving. So it actually works. I feel good about that.
Now, that is out of the consulting arm.
Yes.
See, I need a card to keep up with all of this. SCM Production.
Yes.
Break that down for me. Tell me what that is.
SCM Production is a play on my children's initials and my dad's initials.
Oh, okay.
They have the same. It's so funny. But so out of that, I shot I'm finishing up the second season of an Amazon series. It's for comedians who are local who haven't gotten their big break, but they will. And then we produce comedy shows locally. Most of the time they walk in and they go to the first guy they see, not knowing that it's me who produces the show and who's actually going to be the one to pay them. So it's like kind of funny because there's not a lot of women producers in the comedy game. So it's like, it's a good feeling to make sure that I can guide some people to understand their legacy and secure that. I also secured a distribution deal for digital for Pandora, Spotify. I'm the only one that actually holds that deal.
And all of this from a bakery?
All of this from a bakery, yeah, because you know what's so funny is my father was an entrepreneur. And seeing him actually and he didn't want me to do that. He wanted me to go into law and
be set,
work a job. I'm like, no.
I just watched you own all your own time.
Thank you.
And now you want me to go into a job where somebody else
because he wanted me to be secure and marry right and all that other jazz. And I'm like, no. Because it's like some of the things, like in the South, it's like one of those things, you graduate high school, you get married, you have kids, and the man takes care of everything. That's not
the
my
railroad
thing.
track.
That's not the thing for me. I kind of derailed that and went on my own. So
who gets helped with the Urban Flight Foundation?
A lot of people. So I will meet people who are in social services and they've been denied or whatever, and I'll tell them this is where you can go for food, resources, goods, and stuff like that.
All here in the DMV?
In the DMV,
okay.
Mainly Stafford, Virginia.
Okay. Because
a lot of people are coming from the urban areas to Stafford because they're being pushed out. A lot of the public housing and stuff like that are being gentrified.
Yes, DC.
So they're actually being pushed further south. And so from there, from what they were making in DC, in Maryland and stuff, it's above the limit for a rural county. So then they have to find alternatives to fill in the gaps to feed their families. So there are a lot of resources that are available to those, but they're not publicized because most of them don't have the ability to advertise.
Right.
So it's like we share the information.
Because they have a small budget, so it's either provide services or buy advertising.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's where I come in. I go in, I actually hit pound the pavement to find out.
So is there something in that name?
Yes. So I actually was visiting someone in the hospital in Maryland, and this is so random. And I was like, you know what? It's like that's where the urban flight is being, it's like basically they're fleeing from these areas that they're not being served in. And it's like, She was like, there you have it. She was the lady next in the bed next. She was like, there you got your name. I was like, thank you, ma'am. And she wrote me she wrote me a check. I was like, okay, I guess I have to do it now. So
the urban flight is people that are being gentrified out of DC, meaning that the taxes are going up and the cost of housing is going up, and all of the subsidized housing is being demolished.
Yes.
So those people have to find some place to go live.
Yep.
And they're landing, that's probably about
45 minutes away.
25, 30 miles outside of the city.
Yep. So there's not a lot of information so that they know how to get around.
So you serve every population?
Yes, I do.
While you also serve as executive director of Johnny Appleseed Association?
Yes, that's a trade school. We're actually a fully accredited trade school where we help returning citizens actually get trades, and also people who are
returning. Break that down. What do you mean by returning?
People who have made decisions, who have been in jail, incarcerated.
Okay, there we go.
Who are undereducated, stuff like that. We give them a trade so that they can make the money to take care of their families and not have to do the cycle of being incarcerated or going to jail.
So essentially, you're helping them start their own businesses because it's too hard for them to find jobs in the system.
Yes. Electrical apprentices, plumbing, we have a dental hygienist program coming. So yeah.
I'm over you. This is too much work going on over here.
Listen, when the nights I can't sleep, it actually works. It's one of those things, I guess.
Miss me with the excuses. Miss me. Chandra has given us more than enough nuggets to jumpstart our dreams. Take this information to dream, exhale, plan, and execute. Execute the business. Create a family legacy. Move from merely existing to living a vibrant life full of love and laughter. To reach out to Chandra and tap into one of her many talents, find her on Instagram at
Gore Consults, and you'll find everybody.
Gore Consults. I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out that'sanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.